Welcome to this episode of Beyond the Loch here at Loch Ness Hub. We are thrilled and honoured to be joined today by Mr. Loch Ness himself, Mr. Willie Cameron. Willie, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, you require no introduction to anyone that's involved in tourism within Scotland and beyond. The work that you have done for tourism has obviously been highly commended with Silver Thistle, but for anyone that perhaps is overseas and maybe not made aware of yourself, before you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, I was born in Granton in Spey, and I was brought up in the island of Harris for the first few years of my life, then in Fort William, and then came to Inverness, went to my school in Inverness, and then went to college in Aberdeen. I went into I've been working in hotels since I was a 13-year-old boy, both in Inverness, and my summer holidays vacations were up in Ullapool. So I knew the hospitality industry reasonably well. And I studied at Robert Gordon's College in Aberdeen, and then I went into the finance world. Came out of the finance world, went into the oil business for a couple of years, and then went back into the finance world and came to Drumnadrochit in 1975, although I worked away. My house was in Drumnadrochit, but I worked away for quite a number of years and returned to Drumnadrochit in 1990 with my own financial services company, of which I packed it in about 1991.
Amazing. That's quite a whirlwind tour there. Obviously, there's been a lot happened within tourism, especially in the village here, and it's evolved over the years. What do you feel might have been the key turning points, or some of the most memorable things for you that's happened within tourism here in Drumnadrochit and Glen Urquhart?
Yeah, well, historically, going back to Pictish times, as far as the myth, the legend, the phenomena, whatever you want to call it, was always a marker as far as tourists were concerned globally to come to Loch Ness. And we saw all from the early days of the Loch Ness investigation, Dr. Robert Rhines, and right all the way through the years. However, in 1991, when I came back home to live here, the Drumnadrochit Hotel was empty, and I brought in a friend and colleague of mine, he and his wife, Fraser Campbell and Jackie Campbell, to take over the lease from the Bremner family of the Drumnadrochit Hotel. And that really was, and I joined them there, and that was really, I would say, was the turning point as far as the hotel side in Drumnadrochit was concerned. Although my brother-in-law had the Glen Urquhart Lodge for quite a number of years, and I did work there at one period of time. The other thing that happened when I came here, there was a bit of a sort of war of attrition between the various monster exhibitions. Everybody was wanting to claim a slice of the Loch Ness Monster, and without going into too many details about it, I realised, having travelled a bit, that this was no way for going forward, that we had to have collaborative working with everybody, that the competition wasn't the man next door, the competition was a wee bit further afield. And on the back of that, we started, along with some other local business people, Drumnadrochit Chamber of Commerce and Tourist Association. And that really was the turning point. And we got help from the enterprise company, and it kept us on the right track. And the first expo we went to, we won Best Stand. Fantastic. Out of about 300 stands. So that gave us a lot of encouragement, and it really developed from there. And then we introduced events. We had the Highland Feast, the Food and Drink Festival. We had Whisky Galore, which was a fireworks display at Urquhart Castle. We had the Sunday Post Marathon, 600-700 people walking part of the Great Glen Way.
Sure.
So
extensive. Coming back to the chamber element, I think one of the key things for us here even now, and it's great that you've touched on it, is that collaborative piece. How many people would have been perhaps involved in the chamber back then?
Maybe 10 or 12. Elizabeth McIntosh, Dick Beach, Fraser Campbell, Mrs. Skinner from the Lodge, Mary Beedham, George Edwards, Ian Urquhart, myself, and various other people. I can't remember them all. My apologies if I don't remember them all, but it was quite a while ago. It was great camaraderie. It was great working together, because But we tried to explain to everybody that although you're not directly involved in the hospitality business, that the words of Professor Terry Stevens, tourism is everybody's business. And I remember one time we were having a talk, and a young laddie said, he says, my dad's not in tourism because he's a joiner. I said, well, it's like this, if we don't make money during the summer to do up our rooms or do up our bar or do up things, we wouldn't be able to employ a joiner. So your father is directly involved in tourism as well, because it's the circular economy for the whole of the village, the whole of the area.
Absolutely, and I think that is the part that's perhaps more difficult to measure in terms of the impact of that. You also touched, of course, on the Loch Ness Monster and the pivotal part that that's played in attracting visitors to the local area. Do you think that the Monster's influence has changed over time? Given that's quite a lot.
Having been involved in the subject for quite a number of years, for at least 40 odd years, it's not really changed as such. It goes in waves. It goes up peaks and troughs, like in the late 50s and the 60s, on the back of Constance White's book, More Than a Legend. It became global bestseller book. Then we had the Loch Ness Expeditions, then Dr. Robert Rines, and then in the 80s we had the great Adrian Shine's Operation Deep Scan, and that raised the profile again. And then various things after that, and the new exhibition that came in the 2000s. So it goes in waves and troughs, but it's an amazing subject that fascinates the world. Whether you're 8 or 80, there's people come from all over. And whether they believe or they don't believe, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's, as we said, which was our strapline, taking the title of Constance White's book, More Than a Legend, we created a strapline for the Drumnadrochit Tourist Association, Chamber of Commerce, More Than a Monster.
Yeah, which is brings me nicely on to the next question, and maybe explain what you mean by that, why it was important to say more than a monster.
Very important. We wanted to promote Drumnadrochit as a base, first and foremost. Yes, Loch Ness is on our doorstep, 24 miles long, nearly 800 feet deep, 1.5 miles wide. It's an enormous stretch of water, fabulous to look at, lovely access to it. We could do with a bit more access to it, but anyway. We wanted to use this as a base, because you could go to in an hour from here, and 2 hours from here, and 3 hours from here, and still be back at your bed and breakfast or your hotel or your campsite in the evening. So that is what we really started to promote, that it was really more than a monster. But the other thing too is that the wildlife round Loch Ness is second to none. We nearly have all the wildlife of Great Britain round the shores. That's 67 miles round the loch. We nearly have all the wildlife. Everything from roe deer, red deer, sika deer, we have pine marten, badger, otter, and in the loch itself we have the very rare Arctic char, Atlantic salmon,
and of course a monster.
Well, last and not least, we have that elusive lady herself, believe you me.
Indeed. You touched again on tourism being everyone's business, and perhaps looking around the bigger picture around that, and the number of people that you mentioned your good friend and business partner Fraser Campbell earlier, and obviously Cobb's employ a huge number of people in.
We are one of the biggest. We're one of the biggest hospitality and ancillary industries employer in the Highlands, and we're based in Drumnadrochit. We're proud of our base, our bakery, based on the shores of Loch Ness, hand baked on the shores of Loch Ness, is worldwide. Fraser's just back from Ireland. Our cakes are throughout the whole of Ireland, and I think it's a great honour that a village, a small village in the Highlands of Scotland, can produce a high quality product that goes all over.
I think it's fantastic. Again, for our viewers at home, our village in our Glen here is only approximately 2,500 population. Yep. So I would probably back you there, Willie, in saying they're punching above our weight. But
as I tell most of my audiences when I speak to them, 2,500 people in Drumnadrochit. You get a block of flats in London with 2,500 people in it. So really, considering the number of people that come here, and it's in the millions.
And it'll only be a matter of time before Fraser has all that block of flats buying Cobb's cakes.
I don't know about that. But anyway.
Moving on to the strength of community you talked about. What role do you feel that community plays in the success of local tourism?
Well, we're coming up into very challenging times in more ways than one, with various legislation, high costs as far as government taxation is concerned, VAT. We've always been looking for a moratorium on VAT at 20%. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're almost the highest in Europe, higher than Ireland, and we want to compete on a level playing ground. And there's things like that. There's challenges too with the industry that's coming into it. And people think, oh, an industrial heritage. Well, the Highlands have always had an industrial heritage. This is nothing new. We've had it for years. There was the birthplace of hydroelectric power was Loch Ness. The Fort Augustus, the abbeys at the monks at the abbey in Fort Augustus were one of the first people to actually generate electricity for financial gain. We had the aluminium factory, we had a linen factory down in Invermoriston, the roads of General Wade, the Caledonian Canal. So there are challenges ahead of us. But as far as community is concerned, community is vital. And believe you me, it's not everybody that likes tourists. You know, there are people here that don't want tourists. They want to come up and live very quietly. But we've got to survive. We've got to live. And we've got to encourage people to come into the business, into the hospitality business and serve the tourists. So many years ago, we set up with the local school here a community and business education partnership. And we went on to win the Drumnadrochit Hotel. We did Welcome Host, which was a marker in these days for quality assurance scheme. And we taught the children from the school Welcome Host. They ran the hotel for a day. And we actually won the British Telecom award for Business and Community Education Partnership. And we're still doing that today. We're doing it with Glen Urquhart High School.
Fantastic.
We've just invested some more money in Glen Urquhart High School and in Kilcumin Academy in Fort Augustus, and also in Lochaber High. We're doing a similar thing down there to encourage that hospitality isn't just waiting at tables or washing pots and pans. There's a lot more to the business now. Social media, advertising, marketing, graphic design, huge. We've still got to serve the table, so.
Indeed. I think it's a very good point. There are opportunities for everyone.
Lots.
And tourism is a very, very broad spectrum in terms of all those opportunities. Absolutely. Perhaps touching on some of your volunteer roles, with which there are, again, hundreds. I know for a period, having been involved myself, you were MC at our local Highland Games, and perhaps a little bit about what the Highland Games and possibly Shinty and how they're deep-rooted in the village here.
Well, the thing is, the sports of the Celtic nations are extremely important, and I've spoken in Wales about Shinty, about the Highland Games, and it goes back to the clan days. It goes back to the clown in the Gaelic, the children, and it's part of our heritage. We are a very unique part of the world, the Highlands of Scotland, and it's a heritage and a culture to be extremely proud of. And in this village, having the wonderful Highland Games we have, the number of people playing Shinty and the number of women playing Shinty nowadays is phenomenal. And that is continuing the tradition of the sports of the Celtic nations. Yeah. And we can marry in with Ireland, Wales, and Cornwall, the Bretons, and it gives you a real sense of place, sense of freedom, a sense of that we are different. Yeah. We are different, and proud of being that bit different.
Very proud, and it's timely that you've mentioned the ladies' sport in Shinty and how that's evolved, because I noticed yesterday that Glen Urquhart Highland Gathering and Games have just announced that they are going to be hosting the Women's World Champions in the heavy events this year, which is a huge,
absolutely brilliant. It's
fantastic
amazing
for the community. So
amazing for the community, amazing for the Glen Urquhart Highland Games. And I go back 30, 40 years ago, I don't know what the numbers are like today, but 6,000-7,000 people coming to a village in these days with probably only 1,500 people living here. It was about six times the population came on a Saturday, yep. And some of them stayed till Monday.
Indeed.
And maybe some of them didn't get home till the next Saturday. But it was a social gathering of the highest accolade as far as the village of Drumnadrochit and Loch Ness was concerned.
Absolutely. Willie, lastly, you have supported so many people through tourism, and I'm sure you get asked this question many times. And being the the exemplar in terms of being an entrepreneur, along with your business partners. If there is any youngsters out there who have an initiative or are entrepreneurial, forgive me, and considering coming into the tourism industry, what advice would you give them?
Well, there's lots and lots of opportunities. There's amazing amount of opportunities. It's getting so diverse. Experiential tourism is people want to be with the people of the area. They want to be with the culture of the area. They want to learn things. They want to help. They want to volunteer. Volunteerism is huge now, huge, and people want to be part of it. So the opportunities for young people in the village, whether they be into wood carving, whether they be into painting, whether they be into musicians, to teach somebody how to play the violin or the fiddle or whatever. There's lots and lots of opportunities over and above the direct hospitality business. And as far as I'm concerned, hospitality's been great for me. It's put food in my mouth, clothes on my back, and it's been fascinating. I've been around the world. Excuse me, around the world. I've had 2 trips to China, been out in Dubai. I was in Spain a couple of years ago at the Myths and Legends conference, and the amazing thing was, out of all the myths and legends from all around the world, and the one story that the press, the TV, the radio were wanting to speak about was the Loch Ness Monster.
And I think on that note is a perfect place to end, Willie. We've not touched on even 1% of everything that you've been involved in, and I hope that we'll be able to invite you back in the future for the next series of Beyond the Loch. But for today, thank you so much.
My pleasure, delighted.